Hello everyone, welcome to my video presentation. I'm going to talk about form input validation. What is form input validation? Before submitting data to the server, it is important to ensure that all required form controls are filled out in the correct format. This is called client-side. Client-side is involved because I want to be sure that we understand this concept. The client side is the computer that the user is using and the browser. So everything, this validation occurs only in the computer, in the web page of the user. So then send it to the server side. Different types of client-side validation. Using built-in form validation and using JavaScript validation. Okay, this is a way that we can set attributes directly in the elements of a form, and so we can check if and validate the data inputted by the user. Without JavaScript, just using CSS to show some error messages to the user, and this is the way this built-in form validation works. It has better performance than JavaScript validation, but it is not as customizable as JavaScript validation. So, built-in form validation, the attributes we use to set in the elements, like I said before, are required. This is used to when we want that an element not be empty. The min length and the max length is to set the min length and the max length that a string must or should have. The same is with the min and the max, but with numbers. The type is it could be email, for example, and if the time is we set in the attribute type email, this built-in form validation is going to check if the format of the string is an email. So this make the work for us. And the pattern is a way in we can check if something has a format that we expect or want to have. An example could be the passwords. Some websites ask the user to set a password with maybe one uppercase letter and one lowercase letter and one special symbol or a number. Okay, so let's see an example of this, how implement this built-in form validation. So I selected this example. You can see that I'm not using JavaScript at all. I'm just using CSS and HTML. And in the HTML, I'm just using the attributes I said before, and this built-in validator is going to make the work for us. Okay, so if we in this example, these two ready buttons here, we set it the attribute required. We know that this required attribute is to say to this built-in validator that we want that this cannot be empty. Okay, so right now this is empty, and thus this validators is saying to us that there is an error. So we use the CSS to to set the error. In this case, we are using a red shadow, so it has this. So if this validator said to us, okay, you set it required there, but the user let this element empty, or in this case, unchecked, is going to be invalid. So we receive uh, a false statement that said that this is invalid. So we can set this message error with this red color, or maybe a message or something. Okay, so if I click here, I check this, we can see that the error disappeared for this element. And now we have another element with error, and okay, this is this list, and how we didn't how we don't select anything yet, it is in error. But if we select something, the error gone. Okay, so this is the way that this built-in validator works. Okay, we just have to put the attributes here in the to say how we want the data, in what format, and we just update the CSS. Okay. So the other way, validating forms using JavaScript. You must use JavaScript if you want to take control over the look and feel of native error messages, or to deal with legacy browsers that do not support HTML's built-in form validation. So the built-in form validation is not supported from all browsers, and it's not customizable. So if we want to have a validation completely customizable, we should use JavaScript. It's more difficult since you need to create it all. Validating forms in JavaScript, the Constraint Validation API. So this is an API that helps us validate the form elements, but using JavaScript. Okay, so consists of a set of methods and properties available on the following form elements DOM. So we can apply these methods and properties to all the elements of the form. All these. I'm not going to show all the methods and properties because it is a huge list, and I prefer to show in an example. Okay, this is a good example of using JavaScript with the API. You can see now I have the JavaScript and I have this the CSS and this HTML. So this API, the validator API, works using it has methods and properties that we can set to the elements and access to them and to check them through methods. In this case, we are going to use we are going to get the form, the email from the HTML, and we are going to get the email error. Like this is going to be the place that we are going to display the error message. So we get the three elements of the DOM, and we create an event listener. That's for every input. So every time we input a letter here, it's going to play our function. So we are going to check the email because just adding a letter is going to make our function work. So we have to validate the email. And you can see here validate. This is one of the parameters and methods that has this API. And it's truth. It's because it's not error. It's in this case there is not error, and so we are going to set the message error to empty, and the class name is going to be error, but it's not an error. When it's an error, it's error active. And where we are going to, and if this is an error, we are going to show this, we are going to call this function. We are going to add another event listener to the submit button because the user can hit the submit button. So we have to verify if this is valid. In this case, if it's not valid because of the sign. So we're going to show again the error. And this is another method of this API that prevents us to submit the form, okay, because it has an error. So the function show error, here we can see here that there are comproving 3 times this element. Okay, it's comproving that value is missing. Okay. So if we put anything here, it is blank. This is the statement that compares that checks that. So it will set the text. You need to enter an email address. This text content, email error text content, is another method and property of the API. Okay, you should study this because there are a lot of methods and properties, and I cannot explain everyone in this video because it has to be a short video. So okay, it will check if it's empty. But what about if we enter a letter? It's going to change the error message because it will check, okay, this is not empty. It's going to come here and it's going to use another method of the API that is type mismatch. Okay, this is use the type attribute that we set it here, type email. So this API is going to check if the type mismatch is, if the type is matching what to what we set it here. So here in this case it's not an email, so it's not matching, and that's because this errors message displays now enter value needs to be an email address. Okay, well, sometimes validating forms without a built-in API, we have to use that sometimes, because sometimes we will not able to use the validation API since some functionalities are not compatible with all browsers, or sometimes what we have to verify is something so particular that we will not find it any built-in API. Okay, I want to show you an example of that. I'm going to use this example to show you that sometimes we need something very customized and particular, and we have to use just JavaScript without an API. Okay, so we have to validate, supposing this is an element that is inside another of the elements in a form, and we ask the user to input their identification number, and we have to check if the first 7 numbers, the sum of the first 7 numbers multiplied by this formula, and for the next number subtract it, and subtract for the next number that ends in 0, and that's going to be the 8th number. So this is the JavaScript function. How you can see here, I'm getting this value, and I add an event listener. So every time we put something, the function starts, and I just added a red and a green background to say that it's wrong or it's okay. And here's the function. Is a complicated function. I have no time to explain, but it does this. Okay, so in this example, if we should put this, we already know that the last number has to be 2. So let's check that. 1, 2, 2, 3. It is not matching because the background is red. 4, 5, 6, 7, and now if I put the 2, it says, okay, your number identification, it's okay. So this is the example I used to show you this situation that we can use an API, and it should be a totally customizable code. So thanks for watching this video. I hope it helped you understand more about the concept of form input validation. This is a very important thing, and thanks for watching.